Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're getting right into how you can transform your hard-earned skills into a thriving, sustainable enterprise. We're going to explore that absolutely crucial mindset shift required to move from, simply doing the daily grind yourself to building a robust system that actually works for you. Let's jump in.
So, here's a question that gets right to the heart of our topic. Why do two people with the exact same skill end up with entirely different bank accounts? It's a fascinating phenomenon, right? You can have two individuals who trained at the exact same place, they possess the exact same technical abilities, yet one barely scrapes by while the other builds an absolute empire. Clearly, hard work alone isn't the only differentiator here. As we'll see throughout this explainer, the true difference literally boils down to mindset. To put this into perspective, let's look at a quick story.
Section 1. The Tale of Two Welders.
Okay, so meet Musa and Ibrahim. Both men started out 5 years ago with the exact same welding skills. But check out their outcomes. Musa, well, he basically stayed a solo worker. He's incredibly talented, for sure, but he spends half his week just sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. He's struggling alone, trading his hours for dollars. Now, Ibrahim took a totally different path. He had the same baseline skill, but he looked up from his welding torch. He noticed that local construction sites were absolutely desperate for reliable welding services. So instead of trying to do it all himself, he partnered with equipment owners. He hired assistants to handle the volume, and ultimately he built a full-scale fabrication business. It's a real game changer. And that brings us to the crucial takeaway from their story. Skills create income, but entrepreneurship creates enterprises. Musa was hyper-focused on income, whereas Ibrahim was focused on enterprise. Don't get me wrong, earning an income from your labor is a great starting point, but it's inherently limited by your own time and energy. Building a structured business is what breaks through those limitations. Section 2. What is entrepreneurship? So if entrepreneurship is fundamentally different from just having a skill, what exactly is it? Well, it isn't just about starting a business on paper. It's a very active pursuit. It's the ability to identify opportunities, organize resources, solve problems, and create value that people are actually willing to pay for. Notice how active those verbs are? True entrepreneurs don't sit back and just look for jobs to be handed to them. They're out there in the community actively pinpointing problems and creating structured solutions for them.
Section 3. Skill versus business enterprise.
Let's dig a bit deeper into this distinction. On one side, we have what we call the skill mindset, represented by solo labor. Think of the individual tailor focusing solely on sewing a garment. That's fantastic, but it relies 100% on her physically being at that machine. On the flip side, we have the enterprise mindset. This is where you move away from just doing the manual labor and shift towards structured management. It's about looking at inventory, organizing client orders, and running a system that consistently delivers value, even if the owner completely steps away from the sewing machine.
Let's break this down a bit more formally. A skill is simply what you know how to do, right? You might know tailoring, welding, hairdressing, electrical installation, or photography. Those are all highly valuable skills. But a business? A business is a structured system that consistently delivers value and generates income. So a tailoring skill has to evolve into a uniform production enterprise. A carpentry skill must become a furniture manufacturing business. A photography skill needs to transform into a structured media production agency. Having the underlying skill is an amazing foundation. Absolutely, but it definitely doesn't mean you automatically have a business. Section 4. The Triple E Entrepreneurship Formula. To actually make that transition, you need a framework. Here are the 4 compounding elements that must come together for a business to succeed. First, you start with the skill, of course, but then you've got to identify the opportunity in the market. Once you find that, you need to build a structure around it, meaning a clear model, a deep understanding of your customers, and keeping solid records. And finally, you inject the finance to make the whole shebang run. The source material points out a pretty sobering reality here. A lot of small businesses fail entirely because they ignore these compounding steps. They might have the skill, sure, but they lack a clear model, they fail to keep records, or they completely miss the broader opportunities surrounding them. Section 5. The formula for spotting opportunities. You know, the biggest hurdle for most skilled workers is just spotting the right opening. If you want the literal secret code to entrepreneurship, here it is. Opportunity equals problem plus demand plus the ability to deliver. An opportunity isn't some magical idea that just falls from the sky. It is simply a very real problem that people are dealing with, combined with their willingness to pay to solve it, matched with your ability to actually deliver that solution. Simply put, where there are problems, there is money to be made. Let's see how this actually plays out in the real world. Every successful business exists because it solves a problem. Just look at this direct cause and effect relationship. If the problem is students needing uniforms, the opportunity is a school uniform business. If farmers are losing crops after harvest because of spoilage, boom, the opportunity is an agro-processing business. If local businesses are struggling with power outages, well, that's your cue for a solar energy business. You aren't just selling a product, you're monetizing a solution to a specific community problem.
Now think back to those common skills we discussed earlier. Look at how beautifully a solo skill scales into an enterprise when you apply this formula. A barber offering convenient grooming can scale into a full mobile grooming business. A mechanic who usually just waits around in a shop can spot the problem of vehicle breakdowns on the road and pivot into a highly lucrative mobile repair and maintenance enterprise. A photographer solves the modern problem of digital visibility by creating a content creation and media agency. The skill remains the core, but the delivery method scales up to meet a much wider demand. Section 6. 6 equipment opportunity clusters.
To help you pinpoint exactly where your specific skill fits, let's look at the broader economic landscape. Structural entrepreneurship applies literally everywhere. Whether you're in construction and industrial, dealing with fabrication, or agriculture, focusing on food production, all the way over to creative and digital, dealing with ICT and media. Even personal and community services like beauty, healthcare, or security fall right under this umbrella. Wherever your baseline skill lives on this list, there is an enterprise just waiting to be built around it.
Section 7. Case study, from tailor to enterprise owner. Let's ground all this theory into reality, shall we? The source material details a highly skilled tailor who was really struggling to earn enough, despite her obvious talent. She was completely trapped in that solo worker mindset, just waiting for individual, one-off customers to walk through her door. But then, she applied the opportunity formula. She looked around and discovered a recurring problem. Local schools needed uniforms for their students every single session. So, she stopped waiting. She proactively approached the school administrators directly to supply those uniforms in bulk. And just look at the incredible results of that simple shift in mindset. By solving a larger institutional problem rather than a single individual's clothing need, she acquired multiple schools as clients. This instantly provided her with stable, recurring revenue, rather than unpredictable seasonal income. With that stability, she achieved a much greater level of overall business health. It allowed her to hire more employees and build a truly structured business. She transitioned from being just a tailor to being the CEO of a uniform production enterprise. So the ultimate takeaway from all of this is that the biggest opportunities often exist right around the skills you already possess. You absolutely do not need to go back to school for years to learn a brand new trade. You simply need to apply a structured, problem-solving mindset to what you already know how to do. The gold mine is likely right beneath your feet, hidden within the tools you already use every single day. Which brings us to the end of our explainer. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. You've seen the formulas, you've seen the transition from Musa to Ibrahim, and from a solo tailor to an enterprise owner. You have the skill. So it's time to stop thinking like a solo worker. What problem will you solve today? Thanks for watching, and it's time to get out there and start building your enterprise.